from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, New York State, 1981, now celebrating our 42nd year. Today is Wednesday, December 20th, 2023 in the Gregorian calendar, and since it is after nightfall, it is the beginning of the 9th day of the 10th Israelite Hebrew month in the new Israelite Hebrew year 5784. Welcome to episode 20 of our monthly seminar entitled Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. The Madam Co-Chairs of the seminar in alphabetical order are Mrs. J. Rivkah Asoulin of the Lower Galilee in Israel, Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Northern Negev in Israel, and Mrs. Gilla Weiss of Florida in the United States. Three mighty women of the God of Israel. And we really, these days, need the leadership of ladies more than ever, the way Deborah led Barak and Yael finished off the job on Sisera. We really need that spirit today, especially now we're walking through the bullets everywhere, pretty much all over the world. So without further ado, I will hand over the mic to our Madam Co-Chairs, and I must do my rainmaking bit beforehand for all of us. Please support my work to build our Hebrew Bible-based broadcasting network from Jerusalem, Israel, to honor the God-land Torah and people of Israel and all humanity. And thanks to the small but growing number of people who have begun to do that. And please support the work of, in alphabetical order, Chava, Gilla, and Rivkah. You'll find the links to their websites. There are so many ways you can buy their products and services, and so many ways you can support their work. You'll see that. And now, without further ado, I'm handing over the mic to our Madam Co-Chairs. Ladies, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Lowell Aryeh, a lion of our times. Welcome to Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. Today, we are still in a war in Israel. This is month 3, I think our 3rd show in a war. So here we are. And one of the things that we've learned in this war, or I guess we've probably already learned it, but it became much more apparent, is how incredibly important it is to know the authentic you, to navigate life's many unplanned situations. So I just want to throw a few questions out there before we begin about rules. Okay, now we're going to you, not we. You are going to extrapolate, okay, what you need to from these questions. So the first question is, why do we have rules? We're going to meditate on this, okay, for a minute. And what if a rule is unjust? Okay. Now we know what are our obligations halachically, as human beings, as Jews, as non-Jews. There's no party lines here. We all have our own higher power to answer to. Just following orders is not an excuse, and it will never be an excuse. So we need to consider breaking rules. We need to consider it, because sometimes rules are unjust. The question is, sometimes rules are just. They're very important. For example, I'm very, very grateful that, there's a red light at a major highway and cars stop and people have right of way. And I know how that whole thing works and I can get around and there aren't traffic jams everywhere. There are rules that really make sense to me and are really important for the functioning, for a functioning society. But in the case where you've got rules that are unjust and you may need to break those rules, how do you know Where does it end? What are the parameters for making those decisions? And we propose that knowing the authentic you, your authentic self, will help you to better understand what you need to do when faced with rules that you may or may not be obligated by your higher power to break. So we've simplified this, as I love to do. I love making everything as simple as possible. So we have our 3 top tips for finding the authentic you. Okay. And if we have time, we have a bonus tip. Okay. So tip number 1, how do you know if you are operating from the authentic you? Guilt. Tip number 1 is guilt. Okay. Are you feeling guilty about a choice or a decision that you've made? Guilt is a gift given to us by our creators. Guilt gets a bad rap. Everyone wants to get rid of guilt. Don't be guilty, don't feel guilty, but hang on. Guilt is a gift. If Hashem has given us the gift of guilt, what is its purpose? What does it serve? It must serve Hashem, it must serve us. If we're feeling guilty about something, that could be an indication that we're not operating from our authentic self, that we've done something that goes against our authenticity, what we know to be right and true. So Gilla or Chava, I'd like to pass it over to one of you to give some examples of this.
Go ahead, Gilla. We don't hear you. You're on mute.
Better?
Yeah.
Done. Good. Okay. So like Rivkah said, and I love the way you said that guilt is actually a gift and can be a gift. Depending on the situation, it doesn't necessarily mean it, we should be burdened down by this. And there is a difference of feeling guilty or being guilted. Pressure, people guilting us, trying to make us feel guilty in order to justify something. So when that happens, that is sign number 1 in my book. Check. Listen to your authentic self, because if you're being guilted and you're having to justify over and over, but your gut, your inner instinct, your Hashem-given Bina intuition is not going along with that, then it's time to stop and think and maybe step out of that comfort zone, which is actually not comfortable at all, and go with what you believe, no matter how guilted you are. One of the things I like to say is, I know all of us, especially mothers, when we go to sleep at night, our minds chatter on. And a lot of that chatter is, did I do enough? Did I do this? What about tomorrow? Maybe I can do something different. Am I doing right by this child? Does this child need more or less? More love, more freedom, all of the above and more. So I'm going to share a really short personal story about my son, my beautiful son, Jojo, who is 15 just recently, and he has Down syndrome. So since his birth, I have been told by friends, maybe family, some family members, the system, teachers, doctors, you name it, to do certain things. And one of them was, this child has to go to school. You have to get him into school. He needs school. He needs to be in a program. He needs all kinds of things. So I wasn't in a rush to put him in school. Why am I going to put a young preschooler who's still in diapers and doesn't communicate very well in a school with strangers? What does he have to gain by that? He stands to gain from being with his mother and his family in a warm, loving environment. And who's going to safeguard his health emotionally, spiritually, physically, more than a family, more than his mother. And that was my answer. So he forewent preschool. He had the best childhood. He still has a really fun time. He is thriving as a homeschooler. He got any therapies that were needed. We did in-home therapy. You don't need to go to school. You choose who the therapist is going to be. They come into your home. You're the boss. If you don't like them, you fire them. They learn how to move with the rhythm of your home and enhance everything and be part of the home system. How about when he got older? Why would I rush to send him out again? What's he going to gain? Does he need to be on honor roll? Is he going to be the first kid with Down syndrome to go to Harvard? Does it really matter? Do we want to bog him down with extra tuition? Do we need to buy this bill of sale of inclusion? It sounds great. It's a fantastic concept. It works well for some. And then it doesn't. And then it doesn't. So what? Who needs it? My son is a 15-year-old who is homeschooled. He just celebrated his birthday party yesterday at his homeschool co-op, the farm school. When I asked him, what do you want for your birthday? He said, pizza lunch with my friends at homeschool. Homeschool doesn't mean being isolated. You show me a child, a teen, a young adult who is more happy than my son, well-adjusted, balanced, communicates, talks, learns what he wants, functioning, happy human being. And does he know that he's loved? Yes, because I stepped outside of being guilted. Today, nobody can guilt me. But I remember having hesitations in doing the step out. Sometimes it takes a child with special needs to be given permission, so to speak, from society to step out. Sometimes a child with special needs means people feel even more guilted into doing things. Either way, check in with yourself, because that's where the truth lies. Chava.
It's amazing. Just amazing. So what I get from all of this, and this is something that everyone can check into, is when you're talking about something and it really sits with you so well and just feels so right for you, as you can notice your body language, you notice your facial expressions, you notice your posture, you notice your gut feeling. You know, when you do something that you feel guilty about, you kind of like don't make eye contact, you're kind of hunched over, your stomach's all in knots, you just don't feel right in your whole body. And when I watch Gilla talking about what she has done, and she knows was right from the beginning until today, look at her posture, look at her smile, look how confident she is. And she has all the answers that she needs for her and for her son. We're not looking for, trying to solve everyone else's problems. That's not what we're trying to do. We need to do what's right for us and what feels right in our body. And you can just see it. You can just see it all over the countenance of somebody who's talking about what really, moves them, what's really right for them. And it's so amazing to see, Gilla. I just love it. But then on the other hand, when you feel guilty about something, even if you haven't done it yet, even if you're just referring to, and I remember I've talked about this in other shows, when I was going to put my first son in gun, people were saying, oh, you have to, you need to. And I was just like, yeah, I guess. But there was something in my body that didn't feel right. And I could feel it. I could feel it in my heart. I could feel it in my shoulders. I could feel it in my head. My sleeping wasn't right. So these are all just little tiny clues as to something that you feel guilty about, even if you haven't even done it yet. And the moment I made that choice not to put him in and to keep him home with me, all of that went away, all of it. So even if I didn't know it was right, even if I didn't know what the heck I was going to do or how to do it, or I didn't have the skills yet, in my body, everything just felt right. And of course, in my son too, he was all of a sudden happy and he just feels free and we feel connected. And so even if you don't have the verbal skills in the beginning, when something that you're about to do or have done, but your body's telling you everything. It's all right there, and every single little cell in your muscles and your nerves, it's all just wrapped up, this non-guilty feeling, or guilty, depending on how it is that you're going about it.
Okay, so listen to guilt. Tip 2, how to authenticate yourself. Okay? I don't have a choice. How many times have we heard this phrase? Has it come out of your own mouth? I didn't have a choice. I wanted to this and that, but I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. What choice do I have? Okay? That is not an empowering place ever. That is not the truth ever. You always have a choice. So I know Chava has a good story, a good illustration here. Maybe you want to share.
Okay, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but my neighbor, many years ago, came to me and we were discussing, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and they found a tiny little lump, and they said that we don't know if it's benign, it's not, whatever, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. In the end, they chopped off the breast. And before she was about to do the surgery, she came to me and she said, I don't know, this is what they're telling me. And I said, look, do what you want, of course, but sit with yourself and make sure it is your decision, not the doctor and all of their pressure, not your husband, not your, everybody's telling you, oh, you have to, otherwise you'll die. Sit with yourself. Is this the decision that you're making from your own mind, your own spirit, your own body? And then once you've made that decision, you go with it 100%. No one can tell you differently. So in the end, she said, yeah, I decided. And she did it. And now I saw her the other day and she started complaining to me. Oh, that doctor, she told me this, she told me that. Now they want to do the other breast. And now this and now that. And I said, we had this conversation and I don't want to come against her, but she's doing that same, I have no choice. I have no choice. I have no choice. You are giving over your power to those who are making decisions for you. And even though it doesn't sit right with you, again, it's not sitting right in your body, you're overpowered by other people saying you don't have a choice and you starting to believe it. What we have to do is take back that power and say, okay, I appreciate your advice. I appreciate your expertise, and I appreciate that you love me. I'm going to take all of that in, but I'm still going to be the one to make the choice. And if I don't like that doctor who's telling me I have to get rid of body parts, I'm going to move to a different doctor. I have that right to fire the people that I don't like on my team. I am the CEO. If you guys know Chris Carr, she also has cancer and she's lived with it for 20 something years. Amazing, amazing woman. And she says, I'm the CEO of my life, of my health. If I don't like someone, I build this beautiful team. This one's in charge of that. That one's in charge of this, all these different doctors and health coaches and nutritionists and this and this and this and this. If anyone doesn't sit right with me, even though I hired them because they're experts and they have lots of degrees and whatever, if I don't like the way that is sitting with me and my direction that I want to go, I fire them. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all of that you've done, and move on. I am making this, it is my choice. It doesn't even matter if it's cancer or whatever. You are making the choice for your children, the choice for you, right? But never, never give away that power. So important.
I'd like to share a story about my sister, and I only feel comfortable to share this because my sister has already shared this with Chava on Chava's podcast for Nettles and Pins. Hopefully Chava will put the link in the chat. You should absolutely have a look at Chava's podcast. She interviews some of the most extraordinary people and entrepreneurs in Israel and abroad, and you can find out about a lot of cool things that are happening in Israel. A lot of people ask us how you can live healthy in Israel and where you can meet like-minded people and where you can do all these cool things we talk about. And Chava's got a treasure trove of information in those podcasts. But one of them was a podcast with my sister, who discussed her journey from kind of mainstream medicine, hospital birth to unassisted home birth. That's a big leap. And I was on the show as well, and we talked about her journey. So she had two very traumatic births where she felt, she certainly wasn't the CEO of her body. She was saying things like, "You don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. There was nothing I could do. I had to be induced. I had to be this. I didn't have a choice. The laws in the state of Florida and this and that." Those were the things coming out of her mouth. And so by baby number 3, actually, I think I said this in baby number 2, but she was real mad at me. She talks about it, so you can get the timeline better there. But by baby number 3, at the end of the second birth, I told her, "Listen, I don't want to hear you complaining anymore. Like, you decided, that was your choice. You made a choice. And I didn't have a choice. You did have a choice. You always have a choice." But she was angry. Her initial reaction was anger, because people don't like to realize that they have a choice. And so, okay, thanks. And so, so by the third baby, my sister was kind of going the normal path, and she started getting steamrolled again. And she was being told that she has to do this and she has to do that. And things that she didn't want to do, be it ultrasound, inductions, You're not on mute, Gilla. So I don't, let's mute Gilla if we can.
Sorry.
Here we go. I got it. Okay, so so at some point things got really, really bad, where she was being forced to have all these interventions that she did not want to have. And she came to me, and I would describe her as completely broken. And we've all been there. She was completely broken and just like, "I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to do this. There's nothing else I can do." And I told her, like, "I've said it once. You didn't want to hear it last time with the last baby. I'm saying it again. You always have a choice." And she said, "Tell me what the choice is. There's a law in Florida that this and this and this and this and that and the whole thing." And I said, then get out of those choices. Don't play by those rules. What are your other options? And she said, "Well, there's nothing I can do. I can't give birth in a hospital. I can't give birth with a midwife. There'll be no one at my birth." I'm like, "Great. That's called unassisted birth." That was not an option in her mind. But once she had been worn down to the point that things felt so wrong, and she was feeling like self-loathing over her decisions, because they weren't really hers, they weren't decisions that she owned, she decided, "You know what? I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to take whatever risk," which she felt was a risk at the time, "whatever risks there are." Mean it, not necessarily a risk with the baby's health. That's not what I'm talking about, because I don't really believe that there is any in a normal, healthy birth. However, she was concerned about what other people might think of her, what might be legal ramifications, all of the other potential consequences. And when she went and had an unassisted birth herself, and you can see what Chava was just speaking about with Gilla, the body language. In that interview, my sister's body language completely changed. She sat up straight in her chair. She was happy. She was glowing. She was relaxed. She had a smile on her face. She made a decision that was authentically her. No matter what anyone else thought, or no matter what the options were that she thought she had, she did what was right for her, and she felt so good about it. And I have to say, I don't think my sister's been the same ever since. She's unstoppable, totally unstoppable now, because she knows that she always has choices, and she can act from her center, from her Bina, from her authentic self, to make good decisions. And now it's a whole new ballgame for her. You're on mute, Gilla. You can't unmute. Here, I'll try that. We'll see if it works. In the meanwhile, maybe we'll move on to number 3. Oh, you're off, Gilla. Go.
Yeah. So thanks so much for sharing that. I love that story. It's so empowering. And as a birth worker, I always give analogies, to birth, labor, all of us to parenting. And I would love to just add that sometimes the choices are not all amazing, but it's a matter of weighing the choices. And sometimes it takes courage to step out and make a choice that we feel is right, yet we're not so comfortable with. And sometimes it's okay to stay with a situation that is not amazing, but we make a conscious choice and we sit with it and we're okay with that. But the choice has to come from us. We have to feel, I made that choice. I had a bunch of choices or options that I wasn't comfortable with, or I was, and I chose to stick with this for now, or I chose to step out of the norm or my comfort zone or everybody else's comfort zone, and that's my choice. So I think both of your stories really reiterate and empower this.
Yeah, own your choices. That's what it comes down to, and I remember in her second birth, and we talk about it in the same little, I guess, documentary about her birthing stories there. But, she's going, unassisted birth is out of the question, and do I get induced and I do whatever? And I said, listen, if that's what you feel your choices are, and you're not willing to step out of that, own your choices. You're going to have to own it. You're going to have to I don't want to hear from you, I had no choice. I want to hear, I chose this. These were my options. This was my best option. Now, I'm not trying to be difficult with my sister, God forbid, but I'm trying to empower my sister, because even in situations where we can't, or we feel we can't make the choice we want, we can't, or we feel we can't, right? Once we've owned our decisions, then we don't feel so destroyed. We don't come out of it feeling so demolished. We come out of it at least feeling like we made an active choice. At least there's something to build upon, because we haven't completely crushed our authentic selves. So
when we're in that position of being demolished, we become so vulnerable to everybody else just pushing us around everywhere. When you own it, even if it's, whatever the consequences, when you own it, no one can push you, not right and not left. They can't move you.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And by the way, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous person to be. If someone cannot push you off of what you know is right, and the decisions that you've made and the choices that you make. And we need to have that kind of power in these current times. That's very important. So if you are one of the people who's striving to be more empowered, heed these tips. Tip number 3, fear. Okay. If you're being scaremongered into something, all right, I'll leave someone else to talk about the recent tyranny. I'll give a personal story pre-recent tyranny. Another birthing story where I'm in the hospital, and I was told, I'll be somewhat vague, I was told that I needed to have a certain treatment during my birth that I did not want. So I refused that treatment, and I was very informed about refusing that treatment. I read many studies and consulted with people that I trusted, and I was quite certain that I did not want that treatment offered, and I refused it. But when I refused it, the personnel in the hospital, because my first birth was in a hospital, it was also my last birth in a hospital, the personnel came to me and said, you understand that your baby will die if you do not accept this treatment. Do you know what it's like to give birth to a stillborn baby? And then they started to describe it to me while I was in labor. Okay. And I told them, I am not accepting this treatment. My baby will not die. And I want you to leave the room, to leave my birthing space. So then they went to my husband and they sat with my husband and they said, do you understand that your wife is killing your baby right now by not accepting this treatment? We can't force her to do it, but you need to understand that your baby will die if she doesn't accept this treatment. And so if you give permission for this, then we can, kind of move it forward. First of all, no married couple should ever be in a divide and conquer situation during the birth of their child. A. B, I refused the treatment. C, my baby didn't die. Thank God. She's almost 19 years old. And she was born perfectly healthy and everything was fine. And as I knew. But we need to understand that somebody else with that amount of fear, and they actually came into the room during my labor and brought me a stack of papers this thick and said, we want you to read through all of this medical information and then sign at the end that you are refusing medical treatment knowing that your baby will die. And I told them, I'm not going to read that. I'm in the middle of labor and I'm certainly not going to sign anything. Okay. But I recognized something in that moment. And that was, if somebody comes to me and is trying to fearmonger me, trying to scare me, that is not, and I'm feeling that I'm being pressured or I'm being made to feel afraid, a decision that I make from that place of fear will not be the authentic me. It will not be my authentic self if I'm making a fear-based decision. Okay. And I've used this many, many times in my life since then, and it's never failed me ever. I mean, 100% success rate. I don't know how many things can claim that, but making a decision from a place of fear has never been the right decision for me personally. Okay. So one of you.
Well, I can say right now, since October 7th, that's how all decisions have been made around where I live and probably most of the country. They have gotten everyone into this sense of absolute terror, panic, fear, and then made to rush all kinds of decisions, evacuation, and dragging your kids all over the country, not knowing where to live, totally homeless, without any kind of, school system. Now we have to put them in here. We have to go there. We have to, and it's all based on fear. And when these people all get into this stance of fear, they feed off of each other, which makes it just worse. And then it will even drag it out. And so even more bad decisions are being made. So that's a way to also during, our past 4 years ago, it was all based in fear. You have to do this, you have to do that, put your mask on, stay at home, it's lockdowns, it's the back, all of these things out of fear. And people are so panicked that they are making decisions that are not in any way logical because it's based in fear. But the systems that be love that state of mind. They love it because then we make all kinds of panicked decisions that are very short minded, that you can't see the long-term effects. It doesn't matter, move here, go there, and it's all coming out of fear. And so they love that. And we need to recognize it, stand back, take a deep breath, maybe even a couple, and reassess the situation. Am I in mortal danger right now? Right? Let's talk it out. Let's analyze the situation before we go and make decisions that we will perhaps regret for many years to come. So this is a really big one, the fear. Knowing that everyone wants you to make decisions in this state of mind, being fearful most of the time, or from this or from that or something else, so that you're always in a constant state of running, fight or flight, from this or that or this or that. And knowing that it's not the truth, you can still make a very good decision based on calming down, looking at what is truly right here in front of you, and slowing down, just slowing down when you're in panic mode.
Dead chicken story to reference again. Looking at what's really there. If you haven't heard the dead chicken story, then watch all of our podcasts and you'll find it. It's a great one. Maybe Chava, you can explain a little bit, since you talked about since October 7th and we're in the war and people have been asked to vacate their homes and go on an all expense paid hotel hop across the country. I think it's important also to note here that there are ramifications for the families and especially the children that you take with you on that journey.
Yeah. So again, with the fear, the systems that be love it when the parents are absolutely flying off the handle and cannot make the correct decisions, are breathing fast, are sweating, are pulling their hair out, running from place to place, vacating their homes. And then the children are watching this and being completely ensconced by it, just enveloped by it, because they are watching us react to whatever situation we're in. If you are in that fear base, your children will be too. And that means heart pounding all the time, not being able to sleep. Anytime the parent leaves the house, the child is running to block the door because they're afraid they might not see them again, the way that they've heard them talking, all of this stuff that's going on, and the murders and the, terrorism and whatever. They don't want them to leave the house because, oh my gosh, mom, I might never see you again. Because that's the way the parents themselves are behaving. So when we try and parent in this kind of situation, nothing healthy can come out of it. And you are now affecting the next generation, because now that child is sweating and his heart is racing and he's not sleeping, just like you. And he's blocking the door and he doesn't want to let you out of his sight. He doesn't know where his home is. He doesn't know where he belongs. He has no more roots. And this affects them so traumatically. They're already traumatized, but they need something grounding them. And the parents aren't able to do it. And now they're not at home, so that's not able to do it. And they're seeing all these strange sights and crowded hotels like you're talking about. They all ran down. I'm not saying it's a wrong decision for everyone, but make your decision based on, again, stepping back, assess the situation. Where are you? Are you in mortal danger this second? What is safer, a hotel or your own home? You can ask yourself all these questions, and for everyone, it will be something different. But the effect that it has on the children, this will go on for a long, long time. It's very sad to see, but the people are without tools on how to deal with this. And I understand, and we're all right there dealing with the same thing. But we have to kind of look outside of ourselves and look at our kids, and they're a reflection of us, and be that reflection that you want to see. So if we handle the situation calmly as much as possible by doing whatever tools we have to calm down, whether that's herbal drinks, sitting in the sun, grounding with your feet, hugging a tree, walking out in the forest, spending time with your kids, sit down and have an eye-to-eye conversation. How are you feeling? What's going on? And talk it out. All of these things are ways to help deal with the situation in terms of helping your own child deal with the situation.
Thank you, Chava. Thank you. Words of wisdom. And Chava is speaking to us from the area that all these families have evacuated. So Chava is our true model of keeping the calm and her kids. So thank you so much, Chava. I want to just go over fear for a moment. And I think everything we spoke about today, making choices, being authentic, a lot of the decisions we make that are not our authentic self making these decisions, fear is involved. It's often from a base of fear, whether it is fear of what people will say about us, or fear of what will they think of my kids or how I'm parenting, or will I be accepted, or the fear that has been conditioned into all of us since birth. We are literally manipulated by fear from cradle to grave, by powers that be, and we are not the first generation. And every once in a while, our precious media that we rely on so heavily for and has become such an integral and ingrained part of our mentality and society, our modern, uber modern society, helps to perpetuate this fear, whether it's something that is hyped up, whether it is something that isn't even true or factual. And our emotions just run away with us. So acknowledging that we have been conditioned by fear is, in my opinion, the number one step to step away from fear. Acknowledging that it's not something that is wrong with us. Quite the opposite. It's our vulnerability. It's our humaneness that succumbs to fear because we love, because we care, because we have compassion, and it's played upon, our emotions are played upon, and we're drawn up into this. The best way is to first sit, just take a moment and sit. You hear something scary across the world or in your part of the world, sit down a moment, breathe. In our last podcast, we gave tools, mindfulness, calming, how to calm. Go back and listen. Look at the fear. Allow yourself to feel it. Try and look at it from the outside. Are you running away from a tiger? Are you scared of a bomb? Have practical ways, and also acknowledging that life happens, shit happens, forgive my French, and we're not immortal. So we can also make a choice in our own movies. Are we going to cower in fear, or are we going to be the hero of our own story? If a plane is going down, are we going to crouch down and cry with fear? Or are we going to reach out to someone and hold their hand and help give them comfort and derive comfort from them? Are we going to speak to God? Are we going to ask God for forgiveness, for love for our loved ones? How are we going to play out the worst case scenario in our own movie? Doing that and going to those places that are most scary and choosing to not cower in fear is beyond empowering. It's beyond empowering. Understanding and acknowledging that fear is a part of life. Life is dangerous. From the minute we take that first breath of life, we don't know what's going to happen. The next breath might not be so healthy for us. Life is dangerous. Living in the danger zone with joy and authenticity is one way of not functioning from a mode of fear. Switch the dial, press the button, change your modus operandi to not functioning from fear. Because like Rivkah said, and Chava, no decision based on fear ever has a phenomenal outcome, especially long term. If you're running from a tiger or you're hiding from a bomb, get to safety now. But other than that, the tiger might be there or not, the bomb might fall or not. But shivering and shaking in fear doesn't serve us well, we will not find any mental, emotional, physical health long term, and neither will our family or our kids. We're the adults. Yes, I know sometimes we look around and it's scary and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm the adult here. Help me, please. Somebody, God, help me. I'm the adult. We're all in trouble. I'm the adult. But it's also a moment of like, okie dokie, what have I got to do now? I'm the adult here. And boy, oh boy, I'm going to be the adult now. And that's what our kids expect. They expect no less. And guess what? Stepping into that, even though we might still harbor some fear, is not only going to help our fear, but it's going to give our kids courage and someone that they can trust, lean on, they can feel safe with, and hopefully help them in their healing journey as they navigate their own PTSD long term.
What is courage? You can't have courage in the absence of fear. You must first be afraid and then make a choice that you're going to move through it, move forward through the fear. That's what courage is. And we need to meditate on that, on who we are. If you found yourself in the position that you are now the adult and managing situations is not a skill that you have, you need to go and get it. You need to get help. You need to get mentors. You need to get books, okay? Because we are the leaders of our families as the adults, the mother and the father, okay? We have to lead our children through fear and anything that life throws at us. We have to lead them, not join them in fear. That doesn't mean that we don't feel fear. It just means that when we feel fear, we have tools to stop, look at it, and make a plan to move right through it. That's what it means to be an adult. And it's shocking how so many adults are not equipped to do that. So many, like in the millions, perhaps billions. And so just because you're not equipped doesn't mean that you don't have a responsibility to get those skills. You do have a responsibility and you need to do that. I'm not trying to be like on a high horse. I also came into adulthood without skills, without parenting skills, without a lot of skills. And I decided that I needed to get those skills. And because I got those skills, I'm able to lead the way for others today, and you can too. Okay? All right, our fourth and bonus point, and then we can do a little Q&A, and our friend Rabbi Hananya can then have his show, is a need to justify. Do you feel that you need to justify? Or do people feel the need to justify things to you? Both of those can be clues that you are not in your own authentic space. So maybe, Gilla, do you want to start with this?
Yes, I'm trying to remember a story. Do you want to remind me?
I'm trying to remember what you said, but you did have some good stuff about that, a need to justify. If you're feeling like people, for me, it's I notice when people try and justify things to me, like, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I go, really? Yeah, because da 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 da, and everyone else does, and da da da. And I see from them, they feel kind of on the defensive. They feel the need to justify to me. And that's a sign to me that they're not in their authentic place. They're not, their authentic self has not been actualized. They're following a crowd. They're doing something else. As far as a need for me to justify to other people, I don't do that very often. But I'm trying to think of an example there. Does anyone have an example of when you needed to justify, or you felt you needed to justify your decisions, and that shows you're not in your authentic space?
No, I
I
get
think-
it done to me a lot, but I'm not
Go
doing
ahead.
it to people. Also, the same thing. Everyone evacuated the area, and we didn't. And when they come just to grab some things from their house before leaving again, I get an earful. You can't live here. It's too dangerous. Why are you, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. Because this is what they're doing in their little groups while they're down in their hotel rooms. I don't need you to make a decision for me. Thank you very much. You left because you felt safer somewhere else. Kol hakavod. I feel safest in my own home. I don't need you to tell me what your decision was and put it on me. That's not going to work. And that just stops them in their tracks because they don't like that I come with confidence and I'm not able for them to swerve me right or left. It really puts them on edge. And they have to stop their justifications because it doesn't work on me because I've made my decision from a very good place. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
So I think you're both reiterating what I think that I had mentioned, and that was when we hear people justifying or we feel the need to justify, that is indicator number one that we didn't make that choice ourselves, consulting our authentic Bina, our authentic selves. When we need to justify, we are limiting our opportunities, and means also that we have been blocked or blocked ourselves from our path to freedom, meaning we are not feeling free in our choices. And so we are coming up with lists to rationalize and justify. And I see this a lot as a birth worker as well. And again, analogies to birth are abound. The same thing with parenting, and the same thing with, whether it's choosing schooling or homeschooling. A lot of parents will justify the norms, which are not necessarily rules. Parents who are actually justifying listening to authority and succumbing to authority, where we're not talking about breaking a rule per se. We're not saying, oh, you shouldn't, listen to the speed limit, just go 100 miles an hour or, whatever. But we are saying that sometimes we need to step out and buckle the authority, not buckle under authority, but we need freedom and to stand up for our rights and freedom. As we justify and as we go through justification, we're essentially giving over our power. It is the opposite of being empowered. So justification, again, means we were either guilted into something and didn't listen to our authentic self, or we did it to ourselves. And if somebody else is giving you a long list of justifications, it might not be the truth. And it might be curbing your freedom. So whether you are in a birth situation and you're given justifications, stop a moment and breathe. If it's, why your kid should be in school, again, they're justifying oftentimes their comfort zone, which is fine for them. But a lot of times people will feel the need to justify, because if you do something that is in their book breaking the rules or out of the norm, they may have to question some of their own choices. And that's when the heavy justification is going to come in, so that they might feel more comfortable with their own decisions. And it's not our right to say, well, you should have done X, Y, Z. It's our right to step in and say, you made your choices, and that's your choice. but I can choose my choose. And if you're uncomfortable with your choices and you need to justify them to me, all the more reason why I need to listen to my intuition.
Beautiful. I think we should wrap up just with a recap of the 4 points that we covered, or the 3 points with our bonus, and then open it up to a Q&A. Guilt, number 1, listen to guilt. Listen to their guilt and listen to your guilt. They're both very telling. Number 2, I don't have a choice. If those words are coming out of your mouth or out of the mouth of someone you're speaking with, that person is not in an empowered place and is not living their authentic selves, their authentic lives. They don't know which rules to break and which rules not to break because they don't have a choice. And they're locked into someone else's fictitious paradigm. Number 3, fear. Making a decision from a place of fear is never the right place to be. It will never turn out the right results. So Gilla made a kavit there. If you're being chased by a tiger, being afraid, and I'll clarify it, because Gilla didn't say sit and be afraid, because you'll die, you'll get eaten. Gilla said run to safety. Okay. Even in that situation, you can't be in a place of fear when you make decisions. It's not the right place to be. You're not in your authentic space. And you won't know which rules to break. You won't have any kind of guideline or any kind of paradigm if you're afraid. Also, I'll add another thing here. I won't go into it too much, but let's just say I went to a shooting range and I'm learning how to use gun. And there are other things in the news that you can refer to. But when using a gun, it's so incredibly important to assess the situation before you ever pull the gun out of the holster. You have to assess. If you're acting from fear and you're not stopping and taking a deep breath, if it's just fear, you might pull a trigger when you shouldn't be, or at the wrong person. Fear is never the right place to make a decision. Okay, and our bonus was need to justify. If people are trying to justify their decisions, if they're putting together this long list of why you need to do this or why they had to do this or whatever, you're not talking to a person's authentic self. You're talking to someone who's way off their center, who's been influenced, who's in another fictitious paradigm for something else. That person doesn't know what rules to break and what not. In Chava's example, being kicked out of your home or being told to evacuate your home. If you're justifying, well, I had to do it because blah, 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 you're not going to be able to know whether or not you should break that rule. In other words, make a decision not to go. If the rule is everyone leaves their home, you won't be able to assess whether or not you should stay at home if that's the best thing for you, because you're so caught up in these justifications and everything. These are signs. So we just wanted to give you a handful of signs, words that might come out of your mouth, things you might be saying or doing, so that you can recognize in yourself when you're being your authentic self or when you're not. And hopefully this will help. Okay, Lola, I know you have a few closing words, and then we can do a Q&A if you'd like.
Well, I want to ask you, do you want to include, wait a minute. Do you want to include the questions and answers in the recorded session, or to finish recorded session now? Okay, so we want to thank Gilla and Rivkah and Chava for another illuminating talk on this critical subject, and we will reconvene in a month. So shalom from Jerusalem, the northern Negev, Lower Galilee, and Florida. Thank you very much. Okay,